welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Dallas EC Faitini. Joining me here this evening, Matt Smite Ross, and you're joining us here for the Machi Esports back-to-back. We just saw Machi pick their first matchup against Sunsister 3-0. Now they're going to be taking on the likes of DeToNator.GOLD and seeing if they can keep up their hot streak. And we'll just take a quick look at the standings as well. Our apologies, we did have a little bit of a mix-up there before, but it is DeToNator.GOLD who are not sitting on the bottom.
Yeah.
It is
actually
Sunsister. It is Sunsister with 0 wins, so apologies for that one.
Yeah, sometimes it happens, but in any case, yeah, DeToNator are after that one best of 5 series we've seen, they'd be the stronger of the Japanese teams, right? They've proven it. They beat Sunsister in a best of 5. Yes, it went to 5 matches, so it was very close. But then again, they're going up against Machi, who just 3-0'd Sunsister. These guys are on a humongous roll right now.
Yeah, I mean, picking up a game against Flash Wolves and then obviously a match against Sunsister as well. You know, the confidence is feeling good for them, I feel. You know, that momentum's going to be rolling for them into this. The one thing though is obviously, you know, we haven't really touched on it too much tonight is do they have the endurance, you know? Are they going to be feeling a little bit, you know, burnt out? You know, match last night, you know, match just before as well, and then playing back to back. You know, there's got to be some level of, you know, you might start feeling a little bit tired, a little bit burnt out at this point.
So, I mean, that's a fair point. But also, what could be playing in their favor is that they're coming off a 3-0 win. And to be honest, it didn't take very long at all for them to get that victory, right? They went through Sunsister's defenses like a hot knife through butter, the softest butter you'll ever find. And all that really does is puts them on a bit of a roll, right? They've got the momentum going. They're ready. They're warmed up for the day. They're coming up to a team who's on the standings, from the results so far, only slightly better than what Sunsister put up. And if that's all DeToNator can bring tonight, then, well, I don't think their hopes are very high up against Machi.
Well, Machi are going to be the home team again, obviously getting first, third, and fifth pick. Going to be interesting to see because I feel that Machi, you know, when it comes to hybrid and assault, very, very strong team, you know, very, very methodical team. But on control, you know, it takes them a little while to get the fire cooking, you know, it takes them a little while to get the party started, essentially. And, you know, they started off quite slowly against Sunsister, I feel, on control. And then they really found their stride there. So I feel DeToNator being slightly better control team than Sunsister are. I think that this is where DeToNator might be able to pick up the first map coming into this and maybe work with a little bit of momentum themselves.
I mean, DeToNator up against Blank on the very first week, they picked up Oasis against Blank. Now, that's not the case here, right? Because we've got Machi, who are the home team. They're not very likely to pick Oasis. It is going to unlock Anakin on Farah. You can play Farah on all 3 maps on Oasis. So I'm very keen to see Machi just simply pick up Lijiang Tower once more. Yes, you can run Farah on Gardens and to a point even on Night Market, but it's a bit rough to run Farah on Control Center as well, and it's something that almost demands both teams run separate compositions for each map. Sometimes you can have a little bit of overlap between Gardens and Night Market, but at the same time, there's going to be variations. So Machi have shown that they're pretty comfortable playing a variety of compositions. Are DeToNator.GOLD going to be in the same position though? And I think Machi should definitely call them out on that. Pick Lijiang Tower, force Machi to run Anakin on Farah, because Machi have shown that they can deal with strong Farah players in their game up against Sunsister and also in their game against Flash Wolves. And then after that, it's just forcing DeToNator.GOLD onto team compositions that they're not quite as comfortable on.
I mean, we saw XQQ, you know, from Sunsister be very, I guess, dynamic on a lot of his, you know, on his heroes there. You know, he's
McCree, Mei, Hanzo.
Well, okay, maybe not so dynamic, but I mean, maybe not super deep. You know, it's a lot, obviously, just McCree.
Yeah, that's clearly his biggest strength.
Bringing out, I guess, you know, a couple of these sort of surprise picks, you know, throwing a spanner into the works. That obviously worked out well for Sunsister. I feel that DeToNator have a slightly more deeper hero pool. I feel that when it comes to Farah vs. Farah, you know, we talked about it very briefly just before, Anakin not being exactly the Farah, I guess, prodigy that we all sort of made him out to be after day one.
Yeah, we all thought we were thinking, wow, this guy is
Who is he? Where's he been?
Literally shutting down Blank by himself. Not even with a Mercy in the sky with him. He was just destroying Blank, to put it frankly. I mean, they still lost, but he was basically the XQQ of that series, right? Just being an absolute star. Ever since then, though, he's fallen back to be a bit more average. Like, I'd put him probably in the middle of the table in terms of Farah players in the OPC, but Machi have shown, like I said, against Flash Wolves and Sun Sister, that they're quite happy to deal with Pharah players. They've got the compositions to deal with it. And again, if they pick Lijiang Tower, you're not likely going to be able to run a Pharah on all 3 maps. At best, you're going to get it on 2 of those 3 maps.
And this was something else we saw from Sun Sister coming through, was that there was that little bit of disconnect, with the tank players. Odinkun, I think, very good. He's very.
Odinkun's great.
Yeah, he's very good. But Zetman sometimes is a little bit too aggressive when it comes to, his charges. I think he takes a far too optimistic ones. Taking a look at the Machi roster now, Kant going to be in for this one again. Rai going to be the player sitting out, and this has sort of been working out really well for them. Kant having a little bit more flexibility, I feel, and that tracer of his is extremely strong.
And speaking of flexibility as well, Kiyomi, who's listed as their support player, has actually got the flexibility to run onto Soldier. And that's usually when we run into unique situations, mostly on Assault, where Machi want to run a Sombra as kind of a quasi-healer, right? Where you can hack those health packs and you can actually sustain your team fairly decently, not up to the levels of an actual healer, but still pretty well. And they run that as their second healer. And then you've got Kiyomi on Soldier. And we saw that he may not be playing up to the levels of Nonez on his team, but is still causing the enemy team to have to divert attention to him, have to spend resources on taking them out. When you're on the defense on Assault, right, you have to deal with a Soldier there. And Kiyomi played it to an acceptable level, right? He still demanded attention. And so while acceptable might not be the greatest thing, like you're saying like, oh, he can do his job fine, he's not outstanding. But this is the guy who's playing support, right? So he can flex between these roles, allowing them to do a composition like that. That's a big strength that Machi bring.
And I mean, the other thing to note there as well is, of course, we've talked about it very briefly about how different players, their different play styles, I guess, have different strengths when you choose which hero they are. And he might not get as much frags, but he's obviously very good at keeping himself alive. But, taking a look at the side of DeToNator there, Amakin, we're really expecting him to need to turn up for this one. It's going to be Saihate actually playing offense now. Samurai D, though, has been very sort of, I guess, stand out for me, though, in a lot of these exchanges. We've seen him sort of, set the tone for a lot of these fights. Very aggressive sort of player.
Yeah, I mean, very aggressive, and it plays into what DeToNator like to play. I mean, I don't think we're going to see the same thing that Sun Sister pulled out, triple tank deathball composition. Not really DeToNator style, right? So we're more likely to see things that involve Winston, that involve D.Va. And speaking of D.Va, I want to bring up Yoshiharu, who is, in real life, a star fisherman and wants to bring those skills to Overwatch. He doesn't play Roadhog. Maybe he'll flex between it at some point, but we haven't seen it yet. But his D.Va, I was praising Odenkin for constantly being on top of the DPS that need to be shut down with D.Va. Yoshiharu is like that, but turned up to 11, right? This guy is always where he needs to be, and not just sitting on top of the Soldier, holding up Defense Matrix, saying like, okay, there's my job done, where's my paycheck? He's actually identifying the enemy team's win condition and flying straight for it and eating it up, right? One of the most key examples was, I can't remember who he's playing, but the enemy team had a Graviton Surge, and that was their biggest tool for winning the fight. He knew that was going to happen and flew straight for the Zarya, and timed it perfectly so it got eaten up. It's a very thin balance, right? You can't just hold it up forever because then Zarya is never going to throw it, but if you throw it up too late, then it goes off anyway. So you've got to get that sweet spot where you actually eat up the Graviton. And Yoshiharu is so far one of the best D.Vas in the Pacific Championship that I've seen at doing not only that, but also identifying when and where he needs to do it, where he needs to be.
I think one of the interesting points to note there as well is like the communication, I feel, that comes out from the side of DeToNator.GOLD is, again, I hate to keep comparing them to Sun Sister, but I guess it's like their closest comparison right now. The level of their communication is just that little bit higher. I feel the tanks are a little bit more in sync with everybody else. They do get a little bit frisky sometimes, but I think that's what you need. We saw Sun Sister, obviously. The reason why they couldn't even get themselves, into first cap on Volskaya. Too hesitant to get themselves in there. They're a little bit too defensive, I feel. Whereas DeToNator.GOLD, they like to come in with a bit of a boom. Eh? Can't help myself, really. But
that was a golden one.
Yeah. Oh, is it because they're also golden?
Yeah. See,
yeah. Got
it. I'm there for you, man. I'm there for you.
I'll be just as cringe as you, Weezy. Don't you worry, mate. Thanks, buddy.
But look, okay, so they come in with a boom, right? They're not hesitant like Sun Sister, and I think a lot of that also comes down to the compositions that they run. Like I said, they don't run Death Ball. They really favor that heavy dive. Sometimes they might be running Reinhardt, but that's usually on the maps that demand it. We're probably going to see something like that on Control Center, where a lot of teams do run Death Ball. That's assuming we're going to see Lijiang Tower, but I'm almost certain we will. It was picked in the first best of 5 today by Machi, very likely to pick it again against DeToNator. So in situations like that on Control Center, we might see them run a semi-death ball where they still run flanking DPS, but they're still going to have things like Genji, maybe even Tracer. But hey, look at that.
Well, Machi, being the home team, have picked Lijiang Tower again. Started off a little bit shaky, I feel, against Sun Sister, but now that they've got maybe, I guess, their day 2 nerves out of the way, they're going to probably come into this one feeling pretty good, obviously, about their first performance on the map tonight. I believe they picked it up 3-1, so
yeah.
A little bit of the shakiness was there at first, but, they really sort of hammered those kinks out as they went on through the series there. So,
I mean, also, we've got to remember, that's the first time that Sun Sister has actually taken a map on Control off of another team, apart from DeToNator, right? Where I believe that went to all 5 matches. But that's important because Machi is the first team to actually give that up, apart from the team that had already lost to DeToNator, right? So DeToNator are now in the position to do that. And on paper, they are the better team coming out of Japan, right? Even though it was a close series. So DeToNator can absolutely take some maps off of Machi here, but it's going to be whether they can take out all 3, obviously. So how are they going to play? Exactly. Now, so the way Machi plays is sometimes they commit a little too many ultimates, right? And I think most importantly, right, was their first point defense on King's Row, where they were matching ults for the longest time up against Sun Sister, but eventually Sun Sister saved up all 6 of their ults, and Machi, I feel, didn't recognize that situation. It's times like that where usually the team behind is put in a very desperate situation, but they do save up ults and do have a win condition. Machi needs to start recognizing that and shutting it down, recognizing when it's going to happen, and also DeToNator need to utilize that sort of ability to push through the defenses of Machi.
I mean, this might have just been due to the map selection, Machi feeling a little bit more confident on it. I think on Control they were a little bit frantic when it came to sort of their ult usage and the macro play of the game. But when it was really on those, those more stable sort of defenses and those stable attacks where they can really sort of think, their next move through a little bit more, they were a lot better, I feel, in regards to, ult economy. They'd won a lot more fights. You mentioned multiple times as well that they were winning fights without even having to use anything or just maybe 1 or 2. And whereas, Sun Sister were good at sort of saving together and not committing anything to a fight. But again, it really came down to execution for them, throwing all these ultimates into the fight, but not really being able to find anything. But Lijiang Tower is the name of the game on map number 1. Coming up, Machi taking on DeToNator.GOLD. It's going to be very exciting to see if DeToNator can really bring the fire.
So the first thing that I'm going to talk about as soon as we get into the map is the fact that Anakin is running on a signature fire in the sky without a mercy. This is going to be big because it allows DeToNator to have a nano boost for whoever they want, very likely going to be Saihate with that tactical visor.
Well, a little bit of confusion there. Doesn't really know who he should be going for just yet. Cannot find Nunez until that last rocket there is going to find him right in the face. And now Anakin should be able to control the skies here. Still do not have their mercy as well. Kiyomi going to be still able to stay alive there. A little bit of back and forth coming out from these 2 teams. Now Anakin going to have to retreat, looking to get a little bit of cap time here. But Machi very, very quickly have 3 on the point. They are going to secure the first cap.
And that really looked like something that DeToNator should have won. They took out the sky threat, and the biggest thing about that is that Kiyomi has nowhere safe to fly to. That's the moment that DeToNator should have been aggressive, should have gone for the boom where Sun Sister didn't previously. But unfortunately, they didn't get too aggressive enough, and when they did, it was shut down. Kant running circles around everyone being aggressive, and Kiyomi, after all of that, still managing to play safe. Now Machi is sitting in a great position, almost have res, and they are going to have pulse bomb.
Yeah, Dodoloff almost getting close to the nano boost, but not really much on the side of DeToNator to work with that as the pulse bomb comes through, finds De La V. So no Lucio here to help out the side. But a couple of little trades there. There's going to be Samurai D being able to take out Kent. Nice little environmental
they
kill
can
there
go
from
in now.
Nunez. Here we go. Nice shot there as well. And Machi just making this one look easy, holding onto the point. with no sweat.
Nonez, whoa, just knocking everyone off the edge there, and this is signature Machi again, only Pulse Bomb used in there. They've got so many high impact ults to play with, biggest one being Rez. Who's going to take down Kiyomi in the sky? Your best bet is either Dodoloff or Saihate, but again, they have to be out in the open, and what does that allow to happen? Nonez is going to get free shots on them. Anakin is struggling to win the sky battle, and he won the first one. Maybe self-destruct can do it, but not quite.
Not quite indeed, and it's going to be the sound barrier now coming in for the side of Machi. Almost got the sound barrier for DeToNator as well. Yoshiharu obviously committing the self-destruct there. Saihate drops before he even manages to use the tactical visor, so DeToNator needs to fall back off this fight here. Kiyomi got that resurrection up as well, and it doesn't even need to be used, but he is just going to drop a bit of a tempo res coming in here as well. Going to be able to keep the rest of Machi alive through this one, and DeToNator just a little bit of a overcommitment, I feel, into this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it did bring the numbers up actually in their advantage for Machi, so it's a good res. They've still started committing ultimates though. Machi are using a lot of resources just to hold the point here, but hey, they're in overtime. If there's any moment to overcommit, it's right now, because even if they lose, they can go back and still contest the point once more just by saving up their ults.
Well, DCR1 doing a great job there to pressure Saihate. Didn't really manage to find too much with his attack visor there. Very nicely timed Primal Rage to keep him alive through Kant's Pulse Bomb there. And now DeToNator extremely close to being able to cap this one off. Machi still sitting on overtime here, and surely DeToNator will be able to grab themselves a cap here and keep this game alive, and indeed they do, just in the nick of time.
Machi with a little bit of greed there. Victory in their sights, throwing a few too many bodies at the point. You're already in overtime. You're not going to get any more points unless you're flat out going to win the game there. So DeToNator got a lot of free ult charge there. They have swapped off the fire though. Anakin's now on that Roadhog. He needs to get back there in time. This is going to allow them to hold nice and securely inside the point. It's going to force Nonez and even Kiyomi to start coming into that inside area. But instead, they're fighting out in the courtyard.
And Kant all up in these back lines. Still no one really worrying about this Tracer too much, as Kant just goes to work, finds Saihate there, somehow just gets taken off the edge. Samurai D though, getting himself a trade. And now De La V as well. Oh, big 3 self-destruct there coming in from Yoshiharu. This should be all DeToNator need to hold on to this one. Now Nonez just going for the suicide there as well. Machi having to reset, and what a self-destruct.
And that's the stabilize they needed. Only self-destruct used. Now they're going to have the Nano Visor combo, and that can shut out both Nonez and Kiyomi if he dares show his face in the sky. Restia will have Sound Barrier to counter that out, but this is going to be a lot of ultimates that Machi are going to need to shut down that one combo.
Oh, but that Pulse Bomb there from Kant coming in and opening it up on Anakin. Now Dodoloff getting extremely low here as well. He goes down to the likes of DCR1. Now Kant going to be all over Saihate. He's got nothing to say about that one. And Machi just cleanly taking this fight. No casualties here at all for the side of Machi as they push in.
And even if they were, they still have res. They still are able to turn the tides, and this is going to be 99%, and you can contest all you want, DeToNator. But Machi are going to take the first round on Lijiang Tower. That showed a lot of promise coming out from DeToNator though. They showed that they could win fights, but the big thing was that fight they won was off a D.Va ultimate. And sure, you know, it's great getting those 3 kills out there, but that's not going to happen every single time.
Well, a little bit of stagger still coming in from the likes of DeToNator. No ultimates here to work with though, so they shouldn't be able to struggle this one out for much longer, and indeed they don't, and it will be Machi picking themselves up the first map there.
I mean, you got to try it. You got to try and keep contesting the point. I mean, there's no reason not to, but...
You know, something could happen, you know, Machi could make a huge mistake, and DeToNator, they're back.
Yeah?
No.
No, I mean, there was very desperate situation there, but I mean, look, I mean, nothing to lose, may as well do it. But hey, Machi taking out that first point, and unfortunately for DeToNator, I've got to say that would have been their strongest map on Lijiang Tower, where they can really utilize Anakin. However, he was shut out for a majority of that in the skies. He won the first sky battle, but the rest of his team lost the battle on the ground. They didn't capitalize on the fact that Kiyomi was now ground bound, and Machi just defended him so well, kept him hidden. And now, Machi are going to go up against DeToNator, who can't even utilize the fire on this one. It's just not a map that you're able to. Control Center really favors these big triple tank death ball compositions.
Well, Anakin with the McCree See if Yoshiharu can keep him alive through this first engagement here, or are they going to jump straight onto
Great
him?
charge.
And they are right in here. It's going to be Restia getting put to rest here as Samurai D finds him there with that Fire Strike. And now Saihate just getting the next kill there onto DCR1. And DeToNator looking to get very aggressive, pushing Machi all the way back to their spawn as well. So first cap should be going in the way of DeToNator unless Machi can answer extremely quickly. They do look to challenge, but the cap does fall in the way of DeToNator.
So despite getting a really good charge, he was unfortunately just shut down immediately. It's a good charge because it was shallow, but the angle of it was a little awkward, but
Shatter connects with
talking about
four
angles.
out of nowhere. What a great angle there coming through from, oh my goodness, I just can't even believe that. How did he even find 4 with that one there? But now DCR1 trying to hold the front line here. Goes with the Earth Shatter of his own. Manages to get 2. And this is a far better one. Not as flashy, but does find the kills. And that's what it's all about. Huge charge as well. DCR1 definitely flexing in this exchange.
And with that one Earth Shatter, DeToNator are able to, Machi are able to start cleaning up, winning that the 4v6 right there. They only had 4 members to defend there, so Machi going to be able to take the point. Now they've got Graviton. Remember what I was talking about? It's always Yoshiharu who can eat these Gravitons right here. They're going to hold at the door. So if Yoshiharu can identify this, say, look, No Talk definitely has Gravitons. I need to be on top of him, make sure he doesn't get a grab.
Charge connects right there at the start of this one. DCR1 finding the kill. Dragonblade coming in from Nonez up in the back line. Is this a little bit of too much of an overcommitment though? Manages to find 1, but that's all it's going to be. But they are buying themselves so much time as they push DeToNator all the way back into the spawn. 100 charge here on No Talk as well, and he doesn't want to give DeToNator any room for answers.
And that was a fight that Yoshiharu did actually eat the Graviton during, and they still managed to win there. So Machi, they commit 1 Dragon Blade and, well, I guess Graviton as well, but they still managed to, like you said, buy a lot of time. This gives the chance for Nonez to start running back to the point. He's actually going to be available, even though he was picked off at the end of that fight there. So now how are they going to win here? They've got plenty of tools for these ults.
Well, Deadeye coming through there as well, a lot of pressure, and DCR1 just sends him back to base with the hammer as well. Look at this, no fear, right up in the front lines, swinging it around, 47 HP, throws the shield up just in the nick of time. Such aggressive play here. DCR1 playing an absolutely insane Reinhardt on map number 2, and Machi just looking extremely strong now as they still manage to hold this doorway down.
And watch DCR1's positioning. Is he going to go for the clear front line, or is he going to try and go for a sneaky Earth Shatter where he hides just to the side of the door, but blocked?
Doesn't find anything with that one, just a little bit too slow on the trigger there. Nice charge into each other coming through. Sound barrier now from both sides to push through. Is that a self-destruct? Gonna find anything? Not at all, but it's gonna be Yoshiharu gonna be the better diva on the day here. Now De La V as well, picking up another kill onto DCR1, and now Amakin is free to go to work with the McCree, and indeed he finds so much damage with this one here. It does have another Deadeye up to work with as well. And Machi using all their ultimates here, only going to have the Nano Boost, maybe Dragon Blade and a Graviton for the next fight.
But so DeToNator used a ton of ultimates as well, just to stay alive during that. They've only got Amakin and his Deadeye for this next fight, and that's easily shut down by so many things. The big shields, No Talk and his barriers, pretty easy. Even Nonez can deflect it back at him, so they're now pushed back to the point. Deadeye is used just to buy them a little more time.
I mean, really would not agree with this one too much here. I don't think that they needed to buy themselves time. They had no one in a really good flanking position. But now Amakin going to go for the reposition there. Nice charge again coming in from DCR1 to start this one off. No Talk coming in with the Graviton Surge. Does only grab a couple of the tanks, make that 3 into that one there as they all get cleaned up by Nonez's Dragon Blade. Self-destruct to find some time here, but it's a little bit too late there as Machi get themselves back in control. 98%. I don't even think DeToNator can touch the point here, and indeed they can't. Machi leading 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, DeToNator, they showed promise in the fight they were taking back, but like I said just afterwards, they used just a few too many ultimates in that. Machi only committing self-destruct, which is an ultimate that you can charge back up pretty quickly, and not a huge swinger of fights, right? Unless you get that lucky few kills. Sometimes that does happen, but...
Unless you're lazy time.
Exactly, unless you're lazy time. But what do we see there? It just showed that Machi were just able to utilize not just their ultimates a whole lot better, but also the way they positioned and held at the doorway, held at that choke point. They were pushing so aggressively that they were going through it. They get their Graviton eaten. Who cares? Let's just send Nonez in there and try to clean up a few more kills. And remember, what's the worst case scenario when that happens? Oh, okay, so there are some pretty bad scenarios, but if they lose Nonez, he's still back in time to defend once more at the point, and that's how they're able to still continue on holding the point.
Yeah, I felt DeToNator were a little bit too passive there after they won that sort of first fight and got the first cap, and just sort of sat back on the point and let Machi sort of to bring the fight to them. Samurai D almost dropping up into this fight. Going to be a lot of pressure put onto DCR1 as well up in the front lines here. He's going to be able to fall back just in the nick of time, but No Talk is going to be found by the likes of Anakin on that Genji there. They do pick themselves up a second as well. Kent, though, being the only tracer left on the field now, should be able to go to work. Not a lot of pressure being put onto him, but DeToNator looking like they came out on top of this first fight, getting themselves on the point. Will they get themselves the first cap, and will we see a repeat of the last match? I want them to get aggressive now, or are they going to try to hold from the point?
Yeah, well, Machi, they're probably going to back off a little bit. DeToNator, they've got a very different composition to how Sun Sister were holding this. A lot of dives, so they need to get into the backline, killing No Talk at the start of that fight. Fantastic. They need to do it again.
Oh, De La V lands a triple burst there on that Lucio, and what a great shot from him. Now Machi going to be leading into this fight here as the DeToNator players are dropping. So Hayate was in such a good position, but sort of couldn't get into this fight quick enough there. And now DeToNator falling down. Machi should be able to get themselves a cap off the back of this one, but a lot of good...
The trades are coming back. I mean, DeToNator should be able to hold this. Kiyomi has his ult. He's got Sound Barrier too.
And he's dropping this Tactical Visor now on the point, but he's trying to shoot a Primal Raging Winston. Not really finding too much up on the squishy heroes there, and just gets sent back to base by Samurai D. Samurai D also finding another one with the help of Anakin too. And I mean, DeToNator somehow holding onto this one.
And DeToNator, they only committed Primal Rage and Nano Boost to that fight, and it also took so long that they're now sitting at 50% of the point already capped. Machi, what have they got to work with? They're not running Ana, so they don't have a Nano Boost to drop onto Nonez, which means they have to rely on either Sound Barrier or Transcendence to keep them alive. They don't have either of those, and in fact, they don't even have Transcendence or a Zenyatta.
Man, look at this. Anakin's got the sword out. Doesn't find too much with it, but it's buying them a lot of time here as they push Machi completely back off the point. They're on now just about to get to 80%, so things are getting dire now for the side of Machi. They need to find themselves a kill, but they can't, as Kent eats a self-destruct there from Yoshiharu. And but Nonez, though, up in the back lines, finding himself a little bit as well. DCR1 doing work, killing his Winston counterpart. And now Machi answering back just in time here, 85% for DeToNator. Something needs to work out for Machi, and indeed it is. Can they find this last kill here? On to the Saihate, they do indeed, and that's going to be it. Machi now back in control just in time.
DeToNator can be a little bit happy with that though, because in the fight, again, it took so long that they're now sitting at 93%. One more win and they will actually take this round here. So now what they've got to do is get into a position where they've got the ultimate advantage. So they've got to go into fights and bait out ults from Machi. Now we've seen Machi, they're quite good at winning fights without committing ultimates here. It's going to be on Machi to recognize that that's the position they're in. They just need to stay ahead in the ultimate race.
Yeah, Nonez still holding on to that Dragon Blade there as well. You're waiting for DCR1 because he's about to get his Primal Rage. He's got that up as well. And Kent almost with another Pulse Bomb. So Machi holding all the cards to work with as they still hold the point down. Now good positioning here from DCR1, just waiting for the sound cues just to work out how DeToNator are going to approach this next fight.
So DeToNator can win if they get Anakin up to the Dragon Blade, throw a Nano Boost on him, and just get him to go in and clean up that backline. Kill Restia, kill No Talk before they can even ult. Now Restia pretty hard because Transcendence will save it.
Sound Barrier now coming in for the side of Machi. Tactical Visor going to be coming in from Kiyomi as well. Transcendence though, as well, just to keep them through this one. I mean, a lot being committed here from Machi as they wipe out DeToNator, and DeToNator don't use anything for this, so smart play from DeToNator.
That was probably one of the better things to happen for DeToNator, short of actually capping the point. However, they're still sitting pretty behind. They've got, at best, 2 more fights. Anakin is only just hitting his ultimate right now. They don't have Sound Barrier to work with, one of the best tools. Do they go and try and bait out more fights? I don't think they have enough time right now. Saihate, he could get up to his ult pretty quickly, so they could wait for that and wait for him to get a pick. But honestly, I feel like they've got a little bit of time, get the setup right.
Oh, and Doddeloff is gone as Anakin hits the Dragon Blade and finds Kiyomi up in the back line. Good target acquisition, I feel, from him, and now Nonez wanting to answer with the Dragon Blade of his own. He manages to find his counterpart. Oh, that Pulse Bomb from Saihate, that might just be what DeToNator needs to get themselves back into this.
They're capping.
They are capping the point, 96%. It doesn't matter though. DeToNator grab control of the point. Now Machi need to come up with something big here. They need to find this kill onto the Tracer. Can they do it? They can't right there. And that is going to be disastrous now for Machi. Everything is in for him.
They're getting trades. Machi are actually getting trades if people can get to the point. They may actually be able to wrest this back.
Well, Kent still being very much uncontested, doing a lot of damage here. They need to find this kill onto Kent as he's being able to stagger this point so incredibly well. Finding kills as well. He does as well now have backup in the health. It's going to be Nonez all over this one. Self-destruct coming in there, is it?
Yep.
And it doesn't find the kill there, but Machi, they are indeed doing it. They find the kills they so desperately need. They recap 99%, make that 100, and that's going to be all she wrote. Machi taking out the first map of Lijiang Tower 3-0.
And Kant really needs to pat himself on the back
Wow.
right there. Just absolutely kept his team in the game there, moving in and off the point, making sure it was still in overtime, and still getting kills. It's so important to get trades in that point where both teams are just about even in terms of when their players die, but they're actually going to get back around the same time. Getting trades during that keeps the team in the game, and if Kant could just solo everyone, then, well, that's going to win the game for them.
Well, can't do it.
Kant
Yes,
can
he-
do it.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. There's a real play of the game right there. Kept that one alive, I'd say, for the side of Machi right at the end there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Genji trying to deflect a self-destruct at the end and the play of the game there, also pretty cool, but I don't...
Surely that one doesn't work.
No.
Surely that one doesn't work.
In case you missed the first match, this guy thought you could deflect Reinhardt.
I said
melee.
block. I said block.
Block?
I said
No,
block.
no.
And you can. And you can.
No, Reinhardt will cave in your skull.
No, he won't though.
We'll talk about this another
It
time,
doesn't.
right?
It works. Just if you face him, it doesn't work. It works.
I'll look this up after the match, okay?
It
Because
works. It works.
We're still
I knew that was
we're
right.
still only one match deep, okay? We've only seen Lijiang Tower, and unfortunately for DeToNator, that was actually a stronger showing for Machi than they had against Sun Sister.
Definitely. Like you can
3-0.
sort of see the momentum coming out from them there. They really sort of shine as well with their Pharah composition. You know, Nonez got taken out really early into that, but then they really answered back so very, very well. They even gave up Nonez, and you know, Kiyomi was still alive there on the Mercy, being like, "Well, it's all good. I don't need a Pharah.
Yeah.
I'll just work with Kent and the rest of the crew." And it worked out extremely well for them.
Yeah, contrary to what I was saying, Mercy's not useless without a Pharah. Still has a lot of mobility. It's just ground-based, and some.
I mean, I called the same thing as well.
Yeah.
I said that, you know, Kiyomi was going to be dropping extremely quickly after that, and indeed, it didn't happen. I don't even know how they managed to
Exactly.
sort of turn that one around. I think, again, probably can't.
Yeah, probably can't. But also, it feels like a little bit of lack of hesitation in those moments that DeToNator had, and that's very similar to what Sun Sister was doing up against Machi. I mean, maybe it's Machi just putting these teams in these positions where they're saying, you've got to go now. You've got to come and fight us now, otherwise we're just going to win either the point, the round, or the entire series. And both of these Japanese teams so far have been just a little bit too hesitant on it, and Machi have been punishing them for it. They've been holding points. They've been smashing through control. I mean, yes, DeToNator showed a lot of promise during that, actually winning quite a lot of fights, and not necessarily always fights where the defending team had actually just run out of ultimates, right? That DeToNator actually came in swinging, winning fights that they shouldn't have lost, winning stabilizing fights as well so that they could hold on with an ultimate advantage. But Machi knew how to play the long game. They came back, they knew that they, at some points, had to give up the objective. And even if it wasn't their exact intended result at the time, they still came back because they just simply had better execution of their ults, right? I mean, Nonez had a lot better results with his Dragon Blade than we saw coming out of DeToNator.
I mean, there was the Earthshatter coming out from DeToNator very early on, which connected with 4 of them. It looked like the widest Earthshatter I'd ever seen. Somehow managed to connect everyone that was coming through that sort of left side doorway.
No capitalize though.
And exactly, they didn't manage to find themselves a kill. So you've really got to take your hat off. You've really got to give credit to DCR1, I feel, in these matches. His Reinhardt was superb. You know, even though he might not be getting... No, he actually... I was about to say, even though he might not be getting a lot of kills, he was getting a lot of kills. There was one where he went straight onto, I think it was Anakin, and he was doing the Deadeye, threw the Fire Strike straight through the counter Reinhardt shield, and just bapped him straight in the head and was like, well, that's the fight done.
I mean, I think he just literally held W and left mouse click and just walked through their team, right? Like,
After that, yeah, he was just
I mean, there's nothing to really contest.
cleaning,
You know,
cleaning the streets.
They had already
not the
won the
streets,
fight,
guys.
but it looked really cool, right? In DCR1, he was doing a lot of damage, getting a lot of kills, but also the charges were a lot more different, mostly in the fact that DeToNator weren't really using their charges, right? I don't think I saw their Reinhardt charge apart from after Earthshatters. He was always caught off guard.
There was a couple of, I think maybe literally when I say a couple, I mean 1 or 2, where they just charged into each other and the sound barriers come in. But I mean, exactly, it doesn't count at all. So
right. Whereas we actually saw the one coming out from Machi, right? He was constantly getting into angles to get them into walls and not deep charges, right? Not just right into the enemy team where you might get the stun on the enemy Reinhardt, but you're going to die, you're going to get punished for it for how far away from your team you are. He was getting those shallow charges. It was punished once, and most of that came off the back of a Zarya shield and a flashbang, so like that's going to happen anyway. But apart from that, all of his other charges just had so much more effect.
Yeah, DCR one when they were sort of going for that really forward sort of, spawn camp position. Those charges that he was sort of going across the doorway, he's not charging out the doorway, he's just charging across the doorway. A lot of preemptive charges in that. And I mean, he was putting a lot of pressure on him. This is why I say, he was such a sort of standout player to me, known as, picking up player of the game, getting a lot of sort of like 3, 4K, what would you call them? I guess,
Kills?
plays, with the Dragon Blade out. But he's getting a lot of space created from DCR1. He's making, I guess, DeToNator spend so much time focused on, this Reinhardt, like take the shield down. Do we have a flashbang over the top of the shield, Anakin? But things like this, to try and really deal with this Reinhardt in the front line, which is really just letting Nunez get around the back lines and go to work. And it's the same thing with Kant as well. But most of their flanking heroes are generally uncontested, and their timing is just far, far, far better than the side of DeToNator.
Yeah, and they also ran heavier dive than what DeToNator were running as well. Even on Control Center, they were still running the Genji. They were still running a Tracer at one point as well, so they were still able to get into the backlines and actually get those kills there. We even saw when they were holding that spawn camp as well, getting straight up to the shuttle. Nunez was there, still getting kills. I mean, he died, but was still able to get back to his team because they had won so heavily in the numbers advantage. And also, Machi could just back off to the point because they were so far forward that by the time DeToNator got a chance to actually re-engage around the point, try and contest it there, Nunez was already back.
So, I mean, coming into map number 2, obviously going to be DeToNator's pick here. I feel it would be... I'm trying to think... King's Row, I wouldn't do it after that last performance you just saw Machi play on. But then you saw Machi obviously do really well on Numbani as well, so I don't think you'd want to take them to that either, unless you're really confident at dealing with Torbjorn.
Yeah, and Anakin, he's a good firer. Firer can actually shoot down the Torbjorn turrets. And
I mean, we say this, right? But I think this is something like very, very prevalent in the OPC, like in regards to this Torbjorn meta. Everyone is running Torbjorn, and people have sort of seen this thing for a long time. It's been, I guess, one of like the original sort of pub strats. Maybe Torbjorn, Reinhardt shield in front of it, things like this. But for some reason, in this tournament, we've talked about it, once you lose the first fight and the armor starts coming up, Torbjorn's so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's other things as well. These players now are just so good on Torbjorn, they're essentially playing like a semi-support, semi-DPS character at the same time as well. So I think you've really got to have a far more polished strategy at dealing with the Torbjorn turret now, rather than just saying, well, Pharah beats that.
Well, yeah. So it's not quite as simple as Pharah can just shoot down the turret, but it's on the initial push, right? If you can find out where the turret is, take it out of the fight, Torbjorn is then busy building up another turret and not actually shooting. Remember, his rivet gun does do a pretty hefty amount of damage, right? I mean, it's literally molten lava in your face, but hey, look at that. King's Row, after that performance against Sun Sister, you look a bit chuffed there.
Surprised, taken aback, shocked, bemused, confused. Many different feelings that I'm feeling right now after DeToNator picked King's Row coming into this one. I mean, DeToNator, slightly stronger team than Sun Sister, so
remember the difference, or not necessarily the difference, right? But what happened to Sun Sister when they were defending? Machi never used any ultimates until the very end. They were using
what did happen?
They were using a few pulse bombs here and there, but that's a very easy ult to charge back up.
They got a lot of kills.
But hey, look, I mean, they were winning so hard with literally not using any ults and just using the basic abilities of heroes. That is something that just sort of happened by Sun Sister trying to contest high ground, which was a little bit pointless because it wasn't going to actually get them anything in the end, except maybe 10 more seconds against the payload. And it just put them in an awkward position, right? And Machi were just able to aggressively push forward past the payload. I mean, we saw it was moving quite slowly most of it, but it eventually got there. Now, DeToNator will have watched that match. They will have seen what happened. They will see that, okay, look, XQQ was dived by 3 guys. That's probably going to happen to us if we have a soldier up in that balcony. Have someone up there to help him. Have your own soldier.
The diva.
Yeah, diva. Or have your own soldier just say, I am getting the heck out of here. I'm jumping down to the point. I'm not dealing with 3 guys. I did not sign up for this.
So that's what I was about to say, is maybe this is DeToNator's game plan. They're essentially trying to bait them into thinking, a little bit of false sense of security. Machi going,
Just,
Did they
just
really
have,
just,
just have
did
like,
they really just do that? Like,
just have like 6 Symmetra turrets up there. Just like, kill the first person that goes up there. And have,
or Junkrat
Junkrat and Symmetra.
with the trap and the bomb in the same thing. You know what I mean?
And a Tourbillon turret for good
Why
measure
not?
as well.
Why not? And a Roadhog just sitting around the corner. You know, no one's pushing into that.
And then no one's on the point.
no,
and they just
fuck
take
it
it.
there. You don't need that on you.
Yeah, who needs a point, right?
Just
a
all
payload.
just jump out the windows. You know, if it gets to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
that's
I mean, then you've got a busted team composition and all your traps are dead if it goes wrong. But hey, like that's
No, Junkrat stays up the back there. He's alright.
yeah,
he sits up there.
He's all right. And if he dies, he does so much damage.
Oh yeah, there you go. This old.
Fun fact.
Oh, there we go.
Fun fact. You can deflect Junkrat's death.
Can you really?
Yeah. You
Well,
can. You can
today I
deflect
learned.
it. Yeah.
Today I learned.
We've seen.
So what do you do?
seen
Do you just
some-
run over right on top of it and just?
Well, I mean, you can't deflect it if you kill him because you don't have time to actually start
Yeah.
the deflect. But if you're standing on top of him and someone else kills him, and you're deflecting, the bombs will just land at your feet as your bombs.
Oh right, I was about to be like, you know, can you get some like project some?
Nah,
You know?
nah, unfortunately not. But that would be
Give him the
that would
old,
be really good.
The old, you know, cross cover drive. For anyone who's not familiar with cricket, you know, you're gonna be like, what's this guy talking about?
I'm not familiar.
Whack
with
it with the
cricket.
bat. You know what I mean?
Whack it with the bat. Like, why don't you just say that?
Whack it with a bat.
Why don't you just say that? Whack it with the wakizashi, which
A
is
little
the
bit of the,
which
little
is
bit
the
of the
sword.
cover, a little bit of the cover drive, you know.
The wakizashi is the name for the sword that Genji uses to deflect.
Well, there we go. There's another one.
There you go. I'm a weeaboo.
You were
I know
just,
that fact.
you were just, what am I looking for? Plethora of knowledge.
Thesaurus.
Encyclopedia of Overwatch facts.
Yeah. That sounds really good. I mean,
We
like,
were on such a good point as well. We were on such a good run about why Kings Row is
I
the
mean,
map choice.
Not really. We're talking about having a trap room set up with some
Okay.
extra turrets and everything.
We
But
were on
before
the we were on the
before
track,
that-
but until we got to that point, we've just gone.
So before that, yeah, it's going to be that that DeToNator watched the last series, they saw this Kings Row match and saw where Sun Sister went wrong. And the biggest reason for that was on the first point, XQQ just got jumped. He just, 3 people,
You got jumped, right?
he got jumped by 3 people up on that high ground. Just
He's just
nothing was-
outside KFC, just trying to get his food and just
you know,
jumped.
standing up on the
Done.
high ground, neck minute, 3 guys are up there just ruining your day, ruining a game, and ruining a series. So, I mean, that's not the whole story, right? I mean, Machi still took the
Good,
point.
good.
They still killed 5 other guys to capture that point, right? And then also got the good positioning forwards, making sure that they could move forward again. But I mean, like, look, just forget about all that because Amakin's on Sombra.
Yeah, so this is actually pretty cool coming out from DeToNator, you know, looking to really clean this out very fast indeed. So that's sort of, 3 supports there on the side of DeToNator, running 3 tanks, and it's going to be interesting to see where they find the damage here. It's going to have to be a big EMP.
Yeah, I mean, that's Amakin's their only real damage, and I mean, apart from Roadhog, right, then you've also got to address the fact that Nonez is sitting up in the high ground. The only vertical mobility you have is Amakin throwing his translocator up there and shooting him down. But look at this, he's almost at EMP, they're almost ready to go. They could just go in with a big ultimate advantage right now.
I mean, they probably want to start this one off with the EMP. Amakin 99% should have it any second now. And Saihate is going to have to really open up a pick coming in after this one. There he comes, the EMP. But it doesn't matter. Nonez has got no one on him. And as I say that, it is going to be Yoshiharu all over him. So a little bit too late there, almost managing to find the kill. But Machi should be able to stabilize off this one as DeToNator have been completely baited into the point now. Players are dropping as well, so without, I guess, the whole team here, they need to fall back. They do make the decision, but good hook there from Kent just to pick up another kill there onto Samurai D.
Just going to buy them a little more time. Now, I think the best option for DeToNator there is actually do the same thing, but you've got to send up your Diva a little bit sooner. Yoshiharu has to be shooting Nonez by the time the EMP comes out. Difference is they're going to have a Genji this time and actually swapping Saihate, just changing their team composition up entirely to just flat out dive. Now this is going to allow them to take out Nonez just by employing the same strategy that Machi did against Sun Sister, but then they have to deal with everyone on the ground, and that's a big death ball composition with a lot of hit points.
Well, they're very far now behind on the ultimates. Now Nonez being pressured out of the high ground by Yoshiharu again. At least there's this little bit of adaptation now coming out from the side of DeToNator's attack. Really pushing Nonez off the high ground there. Now Kent though finally managing to put a little bit of pressure himself right into the Diva shield there. But while this is happening here, the rest of the players are just dropping. No one taking out Nonez, and he just goes in with the tactical visor.
That's a few ultimates used though, and what did DeToNator really use during that? Remember, they just swapped up the team composition, so they're just looking to charge up their own odds. They want to go in with a big Nano Blade combo. They do have Nano Boost available now, so do they wait until Anakin has Dragon Blade? They've only got 1 minute and 30 left to go onto the point, so more likely they're going to throw it onto Samurai Z and just hope he can put down the damage. If he can get up to the high ground where Nonez is, which it looks like that's where he's going, throw the Nano Boost on him and have him kill Nonez and jump down after that, that is what they can do.
Now, I feel like they could have gone in with the sound barrier there, but they are just going to be charging more ultimates now. They need to fall back off this. They've already lost Yoshiharu in this exchange as well, and so this is just not working out too well for DeToNator here. Looking a little bit, again, a little bit confused, a little bit frantic here. 1 minute left on the clock, don't have much time to work with.
Difference is though, now they've got Dragon Blade and they can actually contest Nonez up on the high ground, but Kant is a smart guy. He's sitting up there, the very common path to go up and deal with Nonez, and he's just sitting there with a hook ready to go, ready to keep his buddy safe. Now Dragon Blade combo has to be big here, it has to get Nonez.
And they switch back over to a Reinhardt as well, so do have a big front line to work with here on the side of DeToNator. And you've really got to pay attention to Kant here. If he can find this pick, it's going to be all over here for DeToNator. Did he indeed? And he was hungry, finds that one, flies back up into the high ground as well. Now sound barrier coming in. Here is the Dragon Blade from Anakin.
Nothing.
But can't find anything with this one. Not even buying them much time, but they do manage to put Machi off the point, so they are getting themselves some cap time. Slowly but surely, and now this is going to have to be Anakin right now. He needs to find this kill onto Nonez up in the back lines. Kant using the whole hog up in the front lines there. Finds a hook. Oh, this is disastrous now for DeToNator. Losing players left, right, and center. And Machi making this one look extremely easy. Should be able to hold this down on point number 1. Can anyone touch the point? No, they can't. Successful hold there for Machi.
And Machi just recognizing how DeToNator were playing every single team fight. They have Nonez completely safe up on the high ground the first time they see the EMP come out. When Nonez was challenged, he simply ran off, 1v1 the Diva, and held on, and just jumped down when he was, safe to do so. So next time they go for the defense, they recognize, okay, Nonez, you're probably gonna get jumped upon. And also they notice, hey look, DeToNator changing up their team composition, a lot more dive. So what do? They send No Talk up there as well on the Diva to keep him safe. This is something that Sun Sister did not do. It allowed Nonez to keep safe. And they did this every single fight, recognizing what DeToNator were going to do with every single push.
Yeah, good sort of reactions coming out from the side of Machi there. The thing to note there is, I don't really know why they went with that EMP combo when they're not putting any pressure onto Nonez up there on the soldier.
It was just a little bit of an execution mess up there, right? Like, EMP did go off on a lot of people. It even hit Nonez up on the top line, right?
But you can still left click.
Exactly, and he did end up killing the Sombra. But if they had Yoshiharu up there a second earlier, we saw how fast Nonez just runs for cover, runs to retreat, and just throws
I think he dropped him down to like 40, 50 HP as well. So, I mean,
yeah,
almost was able to secure the kill onto him there.
Exactly, but it's very hard to duel a soldier as Diva when he's got the biotic field up. Sure, after that, go nuts. You can take him down for sure. But he would have been hacked, which means no biotic field. He would have run around the corner, away from all of his healers, and would have had to jump down into the low ground. And also, Sombra would have not died. So that could have changed the fight entirely. And also the strategy behind that, which we didn't see because we saw a lot of Nonez, but actually the EMP broke the Reinhardt shield, and then DeToNator were able to get a free hook on him and take out the front line, right? That's the big plan about that, right? You get a pick straight off the fight, straight off the start of the fight, with a very, very quick to charge ultimate. Unfortunately, Nonez was just too much of a problem.
Well, DeToNator are going to be running Zaya on the defense here. Still going with that triple DPS. Should hopefully see Yoshiharu defending the high ground. Going to have probably Sayahate sitting up in the window, and indeed he is. But look at this. Kant wasting no time, getting straight up onto him as well. No Talk going to be following, but look, there it is. They have made a slight adjustment here. Yoshiharu does come to his aid, but he just gets completely bullied out of the position, and same with the high ground players as well. They've been all sent down to the low ground. Machi dealing with that high ground hold very, very easily and early into this one. Kant not even needing to jump down right now, going for a little bit of range tracer play, and now he's right up in the back lines, and they do manage to take down No Talk's mech. It's going to be De La V to pick that one up, but Kant getting very close to the pulse bomb now. This could start things off incredibly well for Machi, and they just push DeToNator right back off the point. They get themselves enough. I don't even know what to say. These are so fast.
Yeah, something that we completely forgot was that they got basically no percentage on the point on their offense, right? Machi just had to get a few points. Just had to literally touch the point.
I just keep thinking that like, you know, they're just like, okay, we're gonna let them get as close as we can and then jump back on it. But instead they're just like, oh, that's right, we forgot as well.
Yeah, I mean, remember that this is a relatively new change to the game. Remember, this is on the latest patch of the game where they changed the percentage points, and so teams, they're struggling to find ways to deal with it. I mean, it's a very, very tough ask to actually defend a point without it ever being touched, right? And because it's such a common defense in the last few seasons of competitive Overwatch, on King's Row, defending that point where you back off into the archway, you don't have that option. You're not allowed to do that. You have to go and actually contest the point. And sometimes, like, it's definitely still on the minds of the players that they have to be on the point, but it's so hard to play that way when you're so used to doing it by backing into the archway.
And I mean, there's not really much to say about that, you know. We sort of talked and gave, I guess, DeToNator a lot of credit, you know, thinking, oh, they've got to watch Machi play on this map against their sister team as well. They can really work out, you know, what went wrong for Sun Sister. Sun Sister, brilliant. And really sort of make those adaptations for themselves. But I mean, going in with that, I was just talking about it briefly just before, you know, going in with that Sombra, you can see how it would have worked, you know, if they had a little bit better execution.
Just 1 second difference.
But to put so much, you know, riding on perfect execution of that fight, I still feel, you know, it's a little bit all or nothing for them there. You know, they could have gone with something a little bit safer, tried to sort of play Soldier, you know, try to get him up on the high ground themselves there, and go for a little bit of a slower sort of offense, and at least not put yourself in this huge disadvantage from the get-go, because that's what happens, obviously, when you do that Sombra play. We've seen maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe once or twice it's worked where you go for that Sombra early play, it doesn't work out, you stick on it, but it's very, very tight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing is that when you go for it once, you're going to put yourself in that disadvantage if you don't get yourself the early fight win. And that's why I feel ever since they lost that, they really committed to that. They gave away a lot of charge, wasted, I feel like, their execution on that a little bit. You know, without even having Sombra. You know, Sombra does shoot rubber bullets, I feel, but like...
A lot of them, though.
A lot of rubber bullets.
Like 60 bullets in like 2 seconds.
I'm going to tickle you to death, you know?
I mean, it does eventually, but at the same time, right, like, it's not like they just said, okay, look, Sombra's not working, let's swap it out, let's get McCree or Soldier or Fire or something, anything else, right? They swapped up their whole composition.
True.
So it's understandable if you set one of your players back on ult charge just a little bit, but you're swapping out half your team. Suddenly they're so far behind on ult charge. You're also mismatching a lot of the combos that you can come up with. We saw Nano Boost was available for the longest time, but they were waiting for Dragon Blade to be ready. So that's, again, advantage that you don't really have because you're not using it. So because they had to swap up their whole composition, it just put them on the back foot for the longest time. And we saw Machi. They were completely comfortable just using 1 or 2 ultimates here or there in every single fight. And also, when they were recognizing how DeToNator were approaching that fight, how they were going to come in and how to shut it down. And macro play, smart positioning, those 2 things are very hard to beat when you're already on the back foot.
Something sort of very interesting to note, though, is obviously, you know, Machi coming off the back of playing Sun Sister just before, you know, still beating them 3-0, but I feel that Sun Sister, you know, in control, they took themselves a map. You know, on King's Row, they managed to get the cart all the way to the end.
It's not looking good with DeToNator.
So, I mean, like, you know, DeToNator obviously got themselves that win against Sun Sister, you know, when they came up against each other. And it's, I guess, an interesting sort of point there. Is this Sun Sister getting better at a faster rate, or did DeToNator not really match up too well when it comes to the likes of Machi Esports?
It's also like Sun Sister were using very different compositions in their fights, right? I mean, we saw it got to the point where there was a Mei on attack and then eventually a Hanzo, right? They're definitely willing to experiment a little bit, and to a point, yeah. So at DeToNator, we saw the Sombra come out. That's a cool little thing to throw in.
It's always fun.
Try and cheese out. I mean, not necessarily.
It is cheese. Let's be honest. It's like old school Torbjorn turret. Now new school Torbjorn turret.
I don't want to call it cheese because it's utilizing an advantage that's there in the game. You can get a very early ultimate, right? And it's not cheese because the enemy team can see it coming, right? You've got a full on, like at least 30 seconds, 40 seconds before Sombra has her ult. And you can see, all right, look, this is what they're going to do. A big EMP is going to hit us and they're going to use that advantage to try and win the first fight. You have time to react to that. That's not cheese. But the thing is, like cheese, if it doesn't work, it just shuts you out from the rest of the game. It makes it so much harder to win because they swapped
I
up.
thought you were making
like real cheese.
Yeah, like a literal like analogy to cheese there.
Well, just like real cheese, if it doesn't work, it stinks.
Bang. There you go. I was.
Is that better?
Yeah,
much more to your taste?
You are just on fire, mate. But I think coming into map number 3, DeToNator not looking very strong. Going to be Machi's pick yet again here. I think, what do you think Machi going to do? Just pick the same thing again? Just go Volskaya?
Why not?
Very, very crispy on Volskaya in map number, in their first series.
They're probably sitting there ready to say like, hey, look, we'll run Volskaya, we'll show you how to Sombra, we'll show you how it works. Because it worked against Sun Sister pretty flawlessly. They did not find any way of dealing with it. So, I mean, why not do the exact same thing against DeToNator, right? The one thing that is going to make it different is that DeToNator still run very different compositions to Sun Sister. Although Sun Sister ran a bit of a half dive, half brawl composition, which is something that a lot of teams will do on Volskaya because you've got to come up, try and attack both sides at once to get the control of the high ground. Otherwise, the enemy team just runs off to the other side of it like cowards. So,
like cowards.
Like cowards. I mean, running away from battle. I mean, come on, face your enemies head on.
Strategical retreat, you know, I feel.
There are two types of people. Two types of people.
Yep.
Coward. Someone who loves battle.
Surviving.
Call it what you want. But in any case, I mean, Machi did use it and they did win, so I'll give you credit for that sort of strategy. Surviving. But yeah, so that's what's going to happen, right? Sun Sister ran a half brawl, half dive composition, which is something that teams can use, right? You want to approach both sides. You want to be able to flick between both sets of the high ground. Make sure you don't allow the enemy team to actually retreat, but you also need to be mobile enough to catch up to the rest of your team in case they engage a 3v6. You don't want that to ever happen, so you have to have the mobility to go for that. The other option is to run very, very heavy dive, right? Instead of that hybrid composition, right? So you run like Winston, Tracer, Genji, Sombra on attack if you really want to, but...
This is where I feel like it's really, really hard for DeToNator because their DPS players, I just don't feel fully up to the level of some of these other players in the tournament. And I mean, Sun Sister have essentially lucked out, I feel. You know, even though they are sitting on 0-7, I believe it is, they have XQQ, do you know what I mean? He is really the big X factor in a lot of these, you know, a lot of those fights for them. Whereas, you know, Anakin was, again, a really big sort of turn-up player for the likes of DeToNator, but Saihate, unless he's turning up, you know, big time, it's just really quiet on the side of DeToNator. Like, the tank play is actually really good, I feel. Yoshiharu's actually a very, very good player, I feel, when it comes to the D.Va. He's all over his targets he needs to be. You know, he's actually almost finding kills himself as well. And I mean, it just looks like that they just don't have these standout DPS players to really make a Genji or a Tracer shine.
Yeah, it just seems like DPS players a little bit outclassed in basically all of their matches, even up against Sun Sister. Like you said, XQQ just showing up against them, even though they ended up taking it close series. And really just Sun Sister, their tanks are great. Oh, sorry, DeToNator. Their tanks are great. Their support's not doing anything terribly wrong, but DPS not stand out like a lot of teams have on their own team.
Speaking of great, Machi are doing extremely great. We are in the back-to-back. They did pick up their first match against Sun Sister, now currently taking on the other Japanese team, DeToNator.GOLD. They are up 2-0. We're going to take a quick break. We'll catch you for the third map when we return. Yes, hello and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. I'm Dallas Easy Fighter D. Joining me is, of course, Matt Smite Ross. And we are right smack bang in the middle of Machi Esports taking on DeToNator.GOLD. We're coming up to map number 3. Machi currently lead 2-0.
The big question is, are we really in the middle of it? Because I feel like it's getting near the end, right? Machi have, to put this, I mean, I always try and put this lightly. I try to be nice to the teams that are a little bit on the back foot, but Machi have absolutely demolished DeToNator right now. DeToNator have just blown up in their own face right now. They are not doing too well in the series. There was signs of hope. There was some interesting strategies, especially on King's Row. But now we're moving into Assault, and it is the home team's pick, and that is Machi. And Machi, they beat Flash Wolves on Volskaya. They beat Sun Sister on Volskaya. And I'm feeling like they're going to beat DeToNator on Volskaya as well.
Well, I mean, I was trying to come into this just with not pretending, but, you know, maybe, you know, DeToNator have had a little bit of time to recompose themselves, a little bit of time to think here, so maybe they can bring something new to Assault. You know, maybe they are a little bit more practiced on this compared to some of these other modes, you know, Hybrid and Control, maybe not some of their stronger sort of map selections here, so we will find out in just a moment. I mean, it's going to be interesting. We sort of talked about this, I think, maybe just before we went on break, or maybe it was in between the break. I can't actually tell at this point. The talking doesn't stop, you know, like there's no breaking actually.
We just keep talking.
Yeah.
We sleep, we keep talking.
is about how we're almost, well, we both expect to see the exact same map picks, you know, against both of the Japanese teams in the exact same sort of order there. And indeed, it's going to be Volskaya Industries being picked up by Machi Esports. So same exact 3 map picks.
So I'm gonna, you know, try and give DeToNator some credit here and actually explain, you know, they actually have the potential to win here. I mean, yes, they did not do too well in the first 2 maps, but it's not over by a long shot, right? I mean, remember, this is still the 7th place team playing off against the 6th place team, or at least that was the case, you know, 2 days ago. But moving into Volskaya, right? Compared to Sun Sister, who ran this kind of hybrid composition, what some teams do, I really expect to see DeToNator just run full dive, maybe even throw Pharmacy in there as well, just to allow their flankers to clean up those direct rocket hits, because dropping someone down to 80 health, that's a free kill for a Tracer or a Genji. They can easily utilize that composition. I think they're going to go full dive on the attack and actually get some ground where Sun Sister couldn't. So Machi are going to have to watch out for that. They're going to have to protect Nonez. So far, they've shown that they can do that.
This is where I wouldn't mind seeing them go back to running the Sombra. So, you know, they had almost success. We'll say almost success, not a little bit of success. They had almost success.
It was close.
It was it was close. It was very close.
It may not have looked like it. It may not have looked like it because it was quite a big team wipe, but I was explaining during the fight, like, if they had executed it just a little bit differently, had Nonez distracted at the time the EMP went off, it would have been a completely different story. They would have taken a Reinhardt out straight at the start. So yes, Sombra can work, but Volskaya, it's very hard to fit a Sombra into the attack on the first point. And you've also got to remember that Machi runs Sombra on defense on Volskaya as well on that first point. So your ability to hack the health packs when you're on the attacking team is basically nullified because Sombra's already there on the defense, already hacking a lot of the key health packs. So you don't have that as an advantage, which is also one of the easiest ways to charge up that ult, which is a big reason for picking Sombra. So I don't expect them to bring out Sombra on the attack here. Instead, look for them to go full dive, you know, 1 tank, Winston, and then throw in 2 DPS. And now they may run Pharmacy to make that easy to clean up on the dives, or they might just simply run a 2nd tank, run D.Va, who can...
I feel, yeah, they're more inclined to run Yoshiharu on the D.Va there.
Exactly.
It just works. I think, again, he's sort of been the most standout player on the side of DeToNator.GOLD.
Yeah.
So we are just about to get into Volskaya Industries. DeToNator.GOLD coming up against Machi Esports. Machi leading 2-0, and they are the home team here, going to be picking Volskaya yet again, looking to have another very dominating series here against both of these Japanese teams, it seems.
I mean, hey, they even beat Flash Wolves on Volskaya. This is clearly looking like one of their stronger maps, more comfortable as well. Everyone seems to be comfortable on Lijiang, so of course they're going to pick that. But Volskaya is a really unique one to start picking up, right? A lot of teams, I think the more common one right now would be either Hanamura or Temple of Anubis for Assault, right? But Volskaya is very, very janky, kind of volatile in how your results are going to go. It's very awkward to defend on the first one because you've got the 2 different sets of high ground, where you're going to play it, what kind of composition you're going to bring out. But teams that can master that sort of defense, and we've actually seen a lot of them start to emerge, will start picking it up. And I think it's something that is going to increase as the series goes on, as the championship goes on. We're going to see Volskaya come out quite a lot more.
Well, we're underway here, and it's just as you mentioned. There it is. It's going to be DeToNator going for a full dive comp here. Double tank, though. Yoshiharu going to be running on the D.Va. And Nonez is going to be playing that famous defensive Sombra here. So a lot of self-healing, and obviously they have the Lucio to work with as well on the side of Machi.
Okay, so watch this. DeToNator are running up that right-hand side. Machi are just going to back off, go to the other side of the high ground, and try and fight from there. DeToNator, though, if they can herd them all into one place, they can just jump on top of everyone. Also, remember, Kiyomi, the support player, is on that soldier. So not quite as proficient at it as Nonez usually is. So again, an easier target to take down. But they have to go in now.
And Kant trying to find some openings here, and Machi find all the openings they need, picking themselves up here. And now they've got DeToNator stuck up here on the high ground. Not much they can do at all, and a completely clean fight there for Machi to open this one up. And now they're looking very good on this defense.
So I was going to say, they had to go in early because that EMP was going to be available. They didn't even manage to force that out of Machi. It wasn't even available at the time. But now it is, and DeToNator are going to be shut down. down quite heavily by it. And you can see they're already starting to swap up some of the composition. They've got Amican now on the McCree, something that's not shut down as heavily by EMP. It's good that DeToNator are recognizing these things, but still, EMP is such a strong ability that comes up so often that it can really win team fights on its own.
Oh, and EMP just comes straight in there onto the tanks. They do manage to take down the mech to start this one off. De La V now getting very pressured up in the back lines there. Yoshiharu going to be losing his life as well. Saihate did manage to find the trade kill there on onto Kiyomi on the soldier, but will he be able to hold his position up there? I feel like he won't now, as Machi just pushed DeToNator out of the front gate.
Soldier's probably going to be back in about 15 seconds. He can actually sprint to the point, so DeToNator don't even really have that window to rush in. Now remember, they swapped up their composition. Amican swapped the hero, so they're happy to take fights where they try and bait out ultimates and charge up their own ones. They didn't actually get that result though. No one on Machi used their ult, and we're coming up to, this is becoming a very familiar story. Machi coming up to 6 ultimates.
And Kent being very good here in his positioning as well, just looking to get around the back lines there. It's going to be DCR1 just starting the charge here, just leaping up to the high ground. Nice pulse bomb, but Kiyomi somehow surviving through this one. Saihate not being able to find anything up in the back lines. Tech are coming through. Saihate does drop there. Tech are picking up a second kill for Kiyomi here, and now the side of DeToNator just completely split up and completely wiped yet again.
And these fights are so absolutely one-sided. This fight though, Machi did commit some ultimates, DeToNator only committing the pulse bomb, but at the same time, EMP charges really, really quickly. Kiyomi is constantly safe, so he's going to charge up his ult pretty quickly during this fight, so it should be up for the next one. But when I say next fight, there's a minute to go. DeToNator need to get a lot of value out of this fight, but actually, the value needs to be taking the point, right? And also, look at that. They're at 0% on the point right now. If they don't manage to get anything on the point at all, that's an impossible defense.
Well, Primal Rage almost up. There comes Dodoloff, going to be dropping the nano boost onto Amican, looking for the boosted Deadeye. Can't even get himself out of the door and completely blocked out there by No Talk. So no Deadeye for you, mate. And now Amican going to be forced out here, very much pressured by DCR1, going to be taking him out there as well. And Machi are just walking all over DeToNator right now. They do manage to get themselves 9% on the point, so that's a lot better than 0.0, but with 20 seconds left, it's looking very unlikely DeToNator are going to get much more out of this sound barrier.
Yoshiharu as well is still sitting outside of his mech, 30%. He's not even going to be in his mech for this next fight. There's Pulse Bomb, EMP, and Sound Barrier is the big one. That's going to keep them all alive through anything that DeToNator can bring out. Amican has to hope for one-shots with his hook. That's the best hope they've got.
Oh, and Kiyomi finding that early pick there onto Yoshiharu out of the mech. Noni is going to be finding another one there. Kent just going to work as well. Tactical Visor coming in. Easy right here for Machi. Doesn't even need to aim at anybody. Complete first hold here. And I mean, I think there was about 3 or 4 deaths in total there for the side of Machi. So looking very clean indeed.
Very crushing defeat for DeToNator, but you can actually see them on their screens though. They're still looking pretty happy, right? I saw them smiling to each other. They're not letting it get them down, right?
Oh, De La V doesn't look too happy though. Let's be honest here.
No, he's just waiting for a laugh.
No, he's just, it's...
Look at Dodoloff though, there's a cheeky grin on him. Yoshiharu as well knows he's doing his job. But I say defeat. It's not impossible for DeToNator to come back here, but it's going to be probably the hardest match I've seen anyone try and win here. Machi are very likely just going to Machi right onto the point and just sit there. I mean, literally, what are DeToNator going to do, right? They're going to have to come down.
Hopefully kill them.
Because they have to keep someone on the point at all times. And we've seen, I think, every single hybrid and assault map today has had a situation like this, where the attacking team, the second attacking team, just have to get a small amount of percentage, if anything at all, to win the rounds.
What do you reckon?
Right now,
Torbjorn Symmetra.
Torbjorn Symmetra,
Torbjorn Symmetra.
Hanzo Widow. Just go full solo Q comp.
Oh my goodness. That would work out to be extremely
Except
interesting.
then no one would stand on the point, so you'd need like a Diva or something. Or a Reinhardt to stand in front of the Torbjorn turret. You put it in a little house, like with the health pack that's sitting on the point, and just throw armor at people constantly. It's not looking good for DeToNator. I mean, I don't know what to tell the Japanese fans right now. It's very hard to bring up hope for them right now. They're facing an impossible situation. Machi are just going to go full dive. They've done it quite often before. I mean, looking at the screen, I can see a McCree there, but I don't think that's going to stick around. It's very likely going to be full dive. What can DeToNator possibly do for this? Short of doing some crazy cheese with Torbjorn, like you said, it's not it's not going to happen because Machi have 4 minutes to work it out. And wow, it's actually going to be full dive. Who's going to stay on the point for them? Yoshiharu, Samurai D are going to have their usefulness cut in half because they can't utilize their mobility nearly as much.
Well, let's find out how this one goes. Anakin on his Genji. He's done quite a lot of work on this. And De La V taken out instantly in this fight. None is going to be finding him there. Saihate now getting a lot of pressure put on him. Got no biotic field to keep him alive. Commits to that one. Manages to get a trade. But it's just going to be Ken all over this one. Just like Machi are all over the point here. 4.8%. And Machi are just dropping like flies here. 5% now as well. Cap time goes up. And that's going to be all she wrote. Machi take the series 3-0. No sweat off their brows.
Japan put up a good fight for a little while. It looked promising in the earlier matches, particularly on control, but as time went on, Machi just got the snowball rolling, got that momentum going, and just showing that they are a team to be reckoned with. I mean, yes, on paper, they are the favored team to win, but to win so heavily, to win so one-sidedly?
So quickly.
So quickly indeed.
So quickly. I mean, Nunez though, like, has been quite stand out here in these two series. In these two series, I'd say.
Gotta give credit as well to Hyomi being able to swap between Soldier and the healers as well. Because remember, when they're running the Sombra on defense as well, they've got to have someone else swap over, and it's going to be Hyomi onto Soldier. It's definitely very impressive that he's able to play like that. So Machi definitely should pat themselves on the back for getting the expected wins for the weekend. But at the same time, they should be very happy with their performance, right? They won so handily that it's really leaving doubts in the minds of players or viewers who were watching the series last night where they beat Flash Wolves, saying, oh, it's just a fluke. Flash Wolves made too many errors. Machi would never beat Flash Wolves. That Machi right there are showing me that
they did.
Yeah, I think that Machi are definitely, like, they did something in the last week right now. I mean, they must have gone up to the lookout tower and gone into the hyperbolic time chamber, got a whole lot of training done in that 1 week, because they are powered up right now and they are just smashing everyone in their way.
A couple of Sensu beans their way, but yes, I mean, I think maybe it's just the addition of Kant here, sort of putting him in instead of Rai has really sort of been the X factor that they were looking for in moving forward into this tournament. We can see, obviously, now they're on a 3-game win streak here, looking very, very good as well. It almost looks like a completely different team. I mean, if they were able to take out Flash Wolves, now it looks like, they should be able to compete with the likes of Hong Kong Attitude, AHQ, and even Blank per se. So,
ooh, it's a big ask.
I compete with,
but
not biased.
Not biased at all.
Not biased.
This guy here.
Compete with.
But also, we've got to remember, they still should have beaten these Japanese teams, and yes, they did it so one-sidedly. The real test is going to be when they play, like you said, teams like Hong Kong Attitude and Fireball, who at the end of last week were teams sitting above Machi. It's going to be whether they beat those teams to show that they're actually consistent in their victory against Flash Wolves, right? Last time they played against both Fireball and Hong Kong Attitude, they were 3-0s, and Machi just did not look like they were able to put up a fight at all. So coming back into the second round of the round robin, if they can actually beat these teams, then they're showing that it wasn't just luck, it wasn't just Flash Wolves playing badly. It's showing that the one-sidedness in these matches against Japan as well are showing that Machi actually are a team that are starting to be reckoned with, starting to show that they can practice between these weeks and actually improve.
Most definitely, and I mean, just a couple of things to talk about before we go to break there. I mean, we just sort of mentioned about Fireball, they've been one of those really, I guess, impressive sort of teams. At the start they looked really shaky, a lot of individually skilled players on the team, but they just weren't really meshing very well together. Now that they've sort of got, some of these communication issues worked out, they're looking very, very strong. I mean, where would you personally rate them in comparison now to Machi? I think Machi can definitely take it to them and not get 3-0, that's for sure.
That would be good. That would be good for Machi. Good for the viewers as well if we get a 5-game series once again. But Fireball compared to Machi, with the most recent results that I've seen, I'm going to say Machi would take out a series against them. I don't think it would be 3-0. I think it would go to like a 4th or 5th game. But
you think Machi have the edge?
I think Machi have the edge. But that said, Machi have shown that they can beat a team like Flash Wolves. Fireball have shown that they're great at beating the teams that are below them.
I like this.
But Gatekeeper Hong Kong Attitude stopping anyone from going above 4th.
The classic Gandalf, eh?
Exactly right. No one's going to pass that 4th place, right? So Machi have proven that they can beat teams in that top 4, Fireball haven't done that yet. So right now, I'm saying Machi are looking like the better team. If they go head-to-head, Fireball, I'm going to have to see their results against teams that are placed above them.
Or maybe they've just had a few lemony snickets as well, you know, a series of unfortunate events throughout the tournament there. But, I mean, coming up next, we're going to have Hong Kong Attitude taking on DeToNator.GOLD. So that one's going to be extremely interesting to see if DeToNator can pick up a win against Hong Kong Attitude. That would be absolutely immense, I'd say, for them, and a very big sort of surprise for a lot of us here. But we are going to go to a short break, and we'll see you all when we return. You'll be joined actually by Pixie and Avril, so do look forward to that one.